Hello everyone and welcome back to Keep Productive YouTube channel. It is Francesco. Today I am joined by Herb. Herb was sat next to me at the Business of Software conference in Cambridge, and we got chatting about productivity software, specifically Dynalist. And what I thought I'd do today is allow Herb to explore. But first, Herb, maybe it's a good opportunity for you to introduce yourself and what sort of field you work in.
Sure. I have a small software company in the US called DevResults, and we make a software as a service tool that's used by NGOs and humanitarian projects around the world. And I live and work in Barcelona. The team's totally remote.
Lovely. And how long has that been going on for?
About 10 years now.
Fantastic.
So it's can't really call it a startup anymore, I guess.
Yeah, you can't use that term. And obviously, when we were sat next to each other, I got an opportunity to see your Dynalist setup, and it's an app that obviously not many people, I think, know about it, because the first sort of options are OneNote, Evernote, Bear, sort of the basic three, I'd say, and then obviously you got Notion. But how did you come across Dynalist first? Because obviously that story we could hear.
So I actually came across a tool called Workflowy first that I think is still better known. It's just been around for a while. And I used Workflowy for maybe a year. It's very similar. Like they kind of invented this category of outliner with some of the UI quirks that we'll see with this. But I got frustrated with Workflowy at one point just because it didn't seem like the product was evolving. I needed something that had an API so that I could automate some things, and there were a couple of other things that I didn't like about it. And I just looked around for alternatives, and this came up, and I've been super happy with it. It's a team that's been very responsive, and like the product just keeps getting better. Okay, so this is Dynalist. Basically, it's an outliner, and here's my sort of outline of things to maybe mention here, and you can see you have things within this hierarchy, which so far is that's something that you can do with Notepad or whatever. Just have the indents, but there's a few things that actually make this a really super powerful thing. So, for example, you can expand and collapse at any level, and it lets you, sort of globally expand and collapse for the whole page. You can really easily move stuff up and down, change where it lives in the hierarchy like that. But I think what really sets it apart is the way that you can zoom in on a node. So basically, every line that you see here can exist as its own page. So if I click here on this little dot next to the zoom in here, that features node becomes the title for that page, and then everything else is at the first level. So basically, you can have an outline that goes as deep as you want, but you can always zoom in on just the part that you're interested in at any given point in time. And each of these views has its own URL, which is really powerful. So if you have a system for making shortcuts or bookmarks or keyboard shortcuts or what have you for specific URLs, then you can have references to specific views of this wherever you need them. Everything on here can be crossed off like a to-do, and you can decide whether you want to see things that have been crossed off or not. Everything that you do is undoable, so I'm undoing a bunch of things that I've done, and now I'm redoing them. So it keeps the full history of what you're doing, and in fact, just like Google Docs, you can go in and see a version history of what you've done and revert back to an earlier version if you need to. when you're selecting all with Control A or Command A on the Mac, it does it in a progressive way according to the hierarchy. So the selection just gets bigger and bigger until you've selected exactly what you want. So like if I want to select everything under Outliner here, Control A, whoops. Control A, Control A, Control A, Control A, Control A until it selects everything that you have there, and so on. There's a lot of really nice keyboard shortcuts. So like I can duplicate an item with Control D, and that applies, to a single line or to an entire section, right? So there I did Control D for this tab in and out, and so I've got 2 complete copies of that one thing. So that's really handy. Like if you have templates for like I have a packing list, and I can just duplicate that to make a brand new copy of it for a specific trip and edit it down however I want. So you can also like turn things into checklists, turn things into numbered lists. What is that? Control X turns things into a numbered list, and then that stays numbered correctly regardless of the order of things. And it also has this nice little, collapse button when you number things. The check putting a checkbox on things doesn't really change anything because it's you can mark it done without the checkbox, and when you mark it done that way, it does the exact same thing. But in some cases, it's nice to just to emphasize, what's actually things that need to get crossed off and what's not. So you also have markdown within each of these lines. So when you click on a line, it shows the markdown, but then when you leave it, it applies whatever the formatting is. And of course, you can use just Control B to mark things bold or italics or whatever. You can assign a date to a thing. So here I've attached a date of today, and the way you do that is just typing exclamation mark and then choosing a date. And you can even apply recurring dates to things so that once you check it off, then it comes back every week or whatever you need it to. You can also add internal links within your whole setup. So any page that you have, so if I wanted to make a link to I don't know, my list of things to do today, then I've got that link, so you can cross-reference things across all of your documents. The way that it works, and this is a big difference from workflow, where you just have one document and you're kind of using the outliner to provide any structure that you need. Dynalist has this additional level of hierarchy where you of organization, where you can have documents, and then you can have documents in folders. And some people have lots and lots of documents for each new thing. They make a new document. I prefer to have just a handful of fairly basic categories. So like all of my writing is in a single document, and then I just use the outline to zoom in on a particular piece that I'm working on. But it's really just incredibly powerful the way that you can jump around. So I've got a lot of stuff in here, and you can use the keyboard. For example, Control Shift O brings up this open box. So Control O just lets me jump to a specific document, and I can type whatever the name of the document that I want to jump to is. Control Shift O lets me jump to any node within any document, right? So I can go to the today heading under my to-do list, or basically to any place that I want to. And not only that, but I can Control Shift M lets me move things anywhere in my whole setup. So I can move something to the inbox. I can move something to any node of any document within the whole setup. And that's really powerful because you don't really have to like go looking for something. If you know where something belongs, you just say, just put this there, and it goes there, which is very cool. So probably pause there and talk a little bit about actually how I use it day to day. So my workflow with this, basically I have kind of a loose getting things done type system, and so with that, the core of my of my daily productivity setup is this inbox. So everything flows into this inbox, and there's several ways that I can get things in there. So I have Zapier tasks set up to put starred emails in my in this inbox. So my process with emails is I either archive it or I star it, and that's it. And so everything that I need to act on comes into this inbox, and then I can decide how exactly to handle it. Otherwise, it's archived. So I just, I can get back to inbox 0 very, very quickly. Anything that I highlight in Instapaper ends up here. Anything that I favorite in Twitter ends up here. And then there's also a Chrome extension that you can use to clip stuff around the web. So if I go to if I'm on a website and I see something that I want to remember, I can either just save the entire page. So here it's just going to send this title and the link, or I can highlight something and just click clip selected text into Dynalist, or there's also a keyboard shortcut with that where it'll send that text, and that happens instantaneously. So you can see here, this is where I sent in the just the title and the link, and then this is where I sent in the actual quote, and I did that twice. And so what I do once I've got all of these things, all of this stuff in my inbox, is I'll periodically just go through it and put stuff where it belongs. And this is where that Control-Shift-M comes in really handy. So a lot of the stuff that I clip from the web or from Instapaper, these quotes and clippings basically from different places, I just put them in a place called Notebox, and then I handle that separately. Put those things into categories, of like, whatever it is that I'm interested in. So I can go through here and put a bunch of that stuff in there. You can also see there's a lot of tweets here, and that's basically just, there was something in that tweet that I wanted to remember, and so I'll have to go to the actual tweet and then, see what it was that I wanted to do there. So in this case, it's somebody's playlist. And so what I'll do is I'll grab the link to this playlist, come back to the inbox, and I'll put it there. And then I'll just send that to my music list, and then I can look at that later. And so on. If there's emails here that I need to deal with, so say we've got this email here, reservation confirmation, I'll put that in my daily list, where it actually becomes part of the to-dos that I have. This is a note that I made to myself. You can also get stuff. I have an auto hotkey shortcut to get things into the inbox. So anyway, I've made a shortcut, Control Windows F or whatever, that pops up this little thing, and so I can say, prepare for Dynalist demo, and then that goes straight to my inbox. So I can do that without having to open up Dynalist if I just think of something during the day. But anyway, all of that stuff that's something that I need to get done, or something that I need to pay attention to, I'll move into the daily here, and all this other stuff. If it's videos to see, I've got a list for that. If it's stuff to read, I've got a list for that. If it's music or whatever it is, I got a place for it, and I make a point of clearing out the send box every time that I look at it. So then if I go to the daily one, you can see here are the tasks that I just added here. So here I can decide, what the importance of each of these is. So I've just got a few headings, and these headings change all the time. And that to me is one of the beauties of having this super flexible system. If I'm about to leave and I need to make a list of stuff that I have to do before I travel, I can say before trip or whatever, make that a heading, and then I've got, that list, and I can move that up and down and priority. So it's just very flexible and allows me to, just do what I want without a whole lot of structure getting in the way. So this stuff I can put in, target, this I can put in today, this I actually don't need to deal with, so I'm just going to delete it. And I keep the today section just with what I absolutely have to deal with before I go home at the end of the day. So everything else, if I'd like to get it done today, I'll put it in target. And then I've just got other categories, of decreasing importance, things that need to get done, things that are waiting for something else to get done, and so on. The other thing that I do here, I've got a heading here called dones. And so typically with these tasks that I do during the day, rather than check them off, I find it really satisfying to just move it to the stuff that I've done that day. And so that way I've got an ongoing record of what I've accomplished. And that sort of, mitigates against this feeling that like you're just doing all this stuff, but like you're never getting anything done. But then you actually look at what you've got at the end of the day, and you've actually, accomplished some important things. So I'll look at this, and there's other things that I've done. So I'll add, whatever it is that I've done during that day, and that's useful for a whole bunch of reasons. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. There's obviously you can see there's a lot of other stuff, shopping lists that I share with my wife. I've got trying to get my kids to keep their schoolwork on there so I can see what they're.
I really like the way that you've made this it's very simplistic in a sense because it's all text. But I quite like that it's very linear and organized in this fashion. Yeah, it's a really good setup. And one of the questions I had was, how do you use? Obviously, you've got some context there. Obviously, someone tagged in it. How often do you use the tagging and the at mentions to other people?
Use it a whole lot. So the at. These things you can kind of use interchangeably, like the interface is exactly the same. If I want to put a tag on it, something like that. I don't use them that much. This is stuff for my assistant to deal with. And so if I, so I've got that all in one place. But yeah, I've found that, so for example, with this note box thing, which is my, which is where all of these clippings go. At first, I was just trying to tag them with whatever the topics were, but then I found that I don't know, I just found it more difficult that way to sort of wrap my head around what I wanted to see, if I'm writing about something or I just want to sort of clarify my thoughts about something. And I found it easier to have these topics as headings, and then to be able to zoom into those headings and see all those things and organize them within that into subcategories. So that's been, I just, the tagging it's occasionally useful for some things.
Fantastic.
But I don't really I don't have enough contexts, or like, there's
it almost doesn't fall into the system you're using. But
Right.
one of the questions I had as well is the mobile access. Do you find that the app works well, or do you feel like you mainly use it on the web or desktop versions?
I do mainly use it on the web. Like the mobile app is useful, honestly, like when I'm in the market and shopping and I just need my shopping list. That's pretty much the only time that I use it. It's not great. Like it's not a really polished mobile app like you might hope for. I understand that they're working on it. But it's kind of just like an application wrapper of this same interface, and there are a few things that are clumsy to do with it. But hopefully that'll get better. It's not that important to my workflow. Like if I want to add something to my list when I'm on the go, I'll just make a note on my iPhone using Siri.
Yeah.
And those are also set up to automatically flow into my inbox. So if I just say, note, don't forget to buy milk or whatever, it goes on to my inbox, and then I don't lose it.
It's really good. I really like your setup, and I think it's going to help a lot of people in the community that are also G2D users as well, and they're looking for a sort of system that will help them. So I think it's been really insightful. Thank you for taking the time out, Herb. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, lovely. Awesome. Have you got anything, any place that anyone would like to find you, like Twitter or etc.?
Yeah, I guess really it would just be my Twitter. It's at Herb Caudill.
Lovely. I'll make sure to include it. Brilliant. There we go.
Yep.
Right there. Using Dynalist.
Right.
Brilliant. Thank you, Herb, and I will catch you very soon.
Thank you, Francesco. Talk to you later.